end the meeting.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks to everyone who's joining us in person. We still are having a few people trickle in as we admit them into the room. But we will get started. Count on you, Mark, to get it ready. Thanks everyone for joining us today for the Planning Sustainable Places pre-application workshop. An electronic copy of this presentation will be posted to the resource section on the application page, application website, so that you can refer to it if you need to. Additionally, we are recording this session, so that recording will be posted as well. So if you aren't familiar with the Planning Sustainable Places program, it builds upon Connected KC, which is our region's long-range transportation plan, and creating sustainable places by supporting the development and implementation of local activity center plans consistent with the Creating Sustainable Places principles. Additionally, identified regional centers, and then the land use policy that is outlined in Connected KC 2050. The program supports and furthers localized public engagement and community consensus building so that it really lifts up community-led solutions. And then it also furthers integrated transportation, land use, and environmental strategies to realize and advance the objectives of the Creating Sustainable Places initiative, Planning Sustainable Places program, and then Connected KC 2050. So the slides, as they're scrolling across here, show each of the funding rounds and those studies that were funded. As you can see, it's been dispersed across the region, covering urban, suburban, and outlying communities. The final map provides a list of all the sponsors and projects. To give you a sense of the impact that the program has had, to date, we have awarded funds to an equal number of studies in both sides of the state and assisting urban, suburban, and outlying communities. The program has funded about 57% of the applications that we've received, and almost $13 million has been invested in planning that specifically impacts centers and corridors in our region. The planning has developed trails, mobility lanes, mobility hubs, the transportation sections of comprehensive plans, development plans, connectivity plans, and updated zoning, to name a few examples. It has encouraged visioning and trying new ideas, not formulaic solutions. But the goal of the program isn't just about completing planning studies. The goal is to develop actionable plans that can transform communities into vibrant, connected, and green places. And so when discussing implementation, please keep in mind that a single Planning Sustainable Places study may be implemented in phases or have different elements that are implemented at different times. This results in more implementation projects than planning studies. To give you a sense of implementation timing, the projects have been broken into two phases, pre-construction and construction, with the far right detailing how many projects have been completed. So of our 118 studies, over 70 have moved toward implementation. Given that it can easily take 5 or more years to assemble land, right-of-way, and funding, this is no small feat and requires patience both on the part of the sponsor and the community. Implementation is taking place in over 70% of the communities that have conducted planning studies. But federal funding is not driving the implementation. Almost 60% of the implementation is completed without federal funds. Local dollars, the driving force. For a few projects where there have been state, county, or other funding sources, those account for less than 20% of the implementation. I hope that you would agree that leveraging almost 13 million in planning to create almost 900 million in implementation, the program has achieved at least some success at this point. So the implementation has been diverse, and last December at the inaugural event, Vibrant Success Stories, we recognized 5 projects that originated in planning sustainable places studies. The recognition was focused on which of the 3 tenets or combination of tenets, vibrant, connected, and or green, each of the projects achieved. KCMO was recognized for connected and green. Overland Park was recognized for vibrant and green. Olathe was recognized with top honors for vibrant, connected, and green for their Kansas Avenue project. Sponsors are limited to government entities. Although we can't accept applications from nonprofits, nonprofits are encouraged to partner with government entities. We have had a number of partnerships with various studies that have been particularly successful. And it really helps to engage the community in many instances. Given the funding source, there must be an emphasis in transportation planning, but land use and environmental aspects are expected to be integrated into any study. And finally, we do have 2 project categories, planning sustainable plans and then project development. And we do have updated scoring criteria. There is a new scored question in this round. So the 2027 submissions guidebook outlines all of the relevant information for the program. The document is available online. We'll do a high-level walk through the components of the guidebook together, but please feel free to ask questions at any time. So looking at the funding amounts, there is 500,000 on the Missouri side and 800,000 on the Kansas side. As I mentioned earlier, Surface Transportation Program funds underwrite this program, which means the projects must have a strong emphasis on transportation. The maximum federal funding request is $150,000. We do not have a minimum grant award. We have funded studies that have been $20,000 or $25,000 in federal funds. So just keep that in mind because we're looking to assist communities with doing the planning work that they think is going to be instrumental for their recognize that means different things in different places. Additionally, we don't have a maximum or minimum budget for size. There is a required minimum local cash match of 20%. The 20% is of the total project funds. It's not the federal funds. And you're encouraged to overmatch if you believe that will be beneficial for your study. And so in some cases, we've had folks that have gotten at different times tripped up by the local cash match. Sorry for those online. I'm trying to minimize this, that way we can see the whole screen. Have been tripped up by the local cash match calculation. So for if you were requesting $150,000 in federal funds, then that would require a match of $37,500. So just keep that in mind. Additionally, Mark does collect a 1% federal 1% fee, which we call a project fee for any federal funds that are awarded to any project. And that is collected separately, is not taken out of the federal funds that are awarded to your study. Then looking at the schedule, the call opened on May 4th. We're doing the application workshop right now. There will be 2 more office hour sessions. And if you have questions, I would encourage you to register and join me at those. I'm happy to answer any questions and provide any information that you can make available. Finally, the project submission deadline is Monday, June 2nd at 4 p.m. Then looking out a bit longer, during June and July after the offer applications has closed, Mark staff will do their technical evaluation and scoring. Additionally, we will, the project scopes will be vetted with KDOT and MoDOT to ensure that we are within federal guidelines. Then at the special meeting for the Sustainable Places Policy Committee on Friday, August 14th at 9 a.m., they will begin deliberating their funding outwards for the applications. This meeting is a special meeting and it's dedicated solely to this. So this is all that they will be talking about. Then the plan would be at the September 11th meeting, which is also a Friday, the second Friday in September. The committee will then finalize their funding recommendation. After that point, it then is sent to the Total Transportation Policy Committee, which actually will be a really fast turnaround because it's the following Tuesday. And then 1 week after that will be when the recommendation goes to the MARC board. So with the program, and this was something that started in 2015, the consulting team that is hired to do the planning work will actually be contracted by MARC. And there are a couple of reasons why we moved to this. The first is we actually had some sponsors from 2013 who asked if there was anything we could do to better manage dealing with invoicing and the DOTs, just given all the tracking of receipts and everything. So at that point, we decided we would take care of holding the contracts, which means any sponsor is actually focused on their project. They don't have to worry about, do I have the right receipts? Is this invoice complete? Any of that. We take care of all of that. So your time is focused on getting the most that you can out of this study, so that it can benefit your community as best as it can. But given the funds are 2027 funds, we then begin procurement at the beginning of October, since that's the beginning of the new federal fiscal year. So next, looking at eligibility, any government agency within the entirety of MARC's metropolitan planning boundary are eligible and can apply for this program. We do, with regard to location, any area is eligible, but we are looking for studies that would be in activity centers or areas that have concentrations of activity that are within the defined redevelopment area. And then those projects are prioritized where there appears to be a confluence of opportunities. When we walk through the selection criteria, that is going to help flush that out. But we are looking for opportunities that are going to support regional goals. So the Sustainable Places Plan is really our first level of planning. It really focuses on the big picture. Typically, this would be an area where you've previously, or the plan that you've done is like decades old and so far out of date that it's not particularly relevant at this point, or it's an area where things have changed rapidly, and it would be advantageous to be able to do planning work there because of these shifts. But within the program, we're always looking for meaningful engagement with the community. There's a collaborative dialogue, and it really is. With regard to project development, this type of study actually starts drilling into sustainable places type of plan. It tends to be more specific. And if, for example, you have an existing plan that has already pretty much ticked the boxes of a Sustainable Places Plan, then you don't have to do the Sustainable Places Plan. You can jump directly to the project development category, so that you can get into more specifics than what you would typically get in the Sustainable Places Plan. Just a note, with project development, given all of these funds are just for planning work, they do not underwrite construction in any way. It cannot go towards any type of preliminary engineering. It can't cover PS&E. and it can't include survey work. So we're talking about conceptual things at this point. Then listed here are the elements that must be incorporated into a sustainable places plan. There are 3 of them, and they are listed there on the left. On the right are examples of the types of projects that could be incorporated into this type of plan. And most frequently, this type of plan is completed in an area that hasn't done any planning, or the planning was done in the past, and current conditions make the previous planning no longer applicable. Then for project development, again, the required elements are listed there on the left. And then the right are examples of types of projects that could be incorporated into this type of plan. Project development offers the opportunity to drill down into a smaller area or focus on a particular aspect of a previous study area. This is often the next step after a community-wide plan has been completed, or if previous broad stroke planning exists for an area. So with regard to the application and the evaluation criteria, the first page of the application will collect general information about your project, including project description and financial information. On the second page of the application, there are a number of questions in relation to a drawn study area. The questions address both residential population and employment population, use variety, housing variety, impervious surface, and connection types. And then there are 2 questions that look specifically at types of businesses and their density in your study area. The destination question looks at 4 categories. Community, which covers civic, rural, religious organizations, and libraries. Consumption, which is retail, restaurants, and services. Institutional, which is educational, hospitals, courthouses, and city halls. And tourism and recreation, which would cover parks and natural amenities, historic sites, art organizations and institutions, sports venues, and hotels. And so we're trying to get an understanding of what would be drawing people to that area, either for work or as attractions. Then there's a new question, which is the priority industry sectors, and there are 4 categories for that as well. Advanced manufacturing, global design, energy, and then transportation, logistics, and wholesale. For that particular question has been incorporated because these are the sectors that really drive our regional economy. And so we want to better understand how you're supporting the regional economy in the particular area that you want to conduct your study. But both the destination and then the priority industry sector are looking at within specific NAICS codes definitions, and then looking at their density at the census block. All of the questions will inform the committee as to your scope of work and allow us to compare study areas to each other. So it's really in your best interest to answer these questions thoroughly and comprehensively. So the scored evaluation criteria are grouped into 4 categories: intent, location, partnerships, and empathy. The intent criteria look to evaluate projects for their approach to the creating sustainable business principles and the Connected KC 2050 policy goals. The location criteria evaluate projects on the area they are located in and the project's possible connections. Jurisdictions, we have added for the first time this round, jurisdictions with locally provided transit service can now actually score points for that form of transit service. So it's not just limited to ATA, the UG, or Johnson County or Independence. The partnerships criteria evaluates the types of partnership that projects offer. And then the implementation criteria evaluates local match, previous implementation success, and commitments from the project. Once the scoring process is complete, you will be provided a scoring report and the opportunity to request a scoring adjustment. Details will be provided with the scoring report. We anticipate that the scoring report will be sent to prospective sponsors mid-July. We believe by that point in time, we will have completed the scoring process and get that information to you. As I mentioned earlier, the state DOTs and FHWA will be reviewing July and August, and then the Sustainable Places Policy Committee will be reviewing in August and September. Then presentation to Mark's Total Transportation Policy Committee and the Board of Directors is planned for September. To give you a sense of how the procurement process works at a high level, the diagram gives you a sense of what the procurement process will look like if your proposed project is selected. All consultant contracts are between the Mid-America Regional Council and the consulting team. This is done given Mark's familiarity with administration of federal funds and allows project sponsors to focus on their project rather than keeping track of invoices, eligible expenses, and receipts. Within the procurement process, the project RFP will need to follow the respective state DOT process, which will be qualifications based. And once Mark receives the notice to award, we will forward a notice to proceed and work. That's specific invoicing and progress reporting will also be required. So I'll walk through the full process of creating an account, adding a project, revising and deleting to demonstrate the database. But this does give you an outline of how you would create an account, how you could add a project, revise a project, and delete a project. So the PSP application portal found at website. So bear with me while I switch over to okay. Everyone should be able to see, this would be the Mark homepage. If you click on focus areas and go to transportation, and then transportation programs, Planning Sustainable Places has its own page. It gives you some background about it. And there's a specific box that has the link to the call for projects. Additionally, there are other resources here in Planning Sustainable Places. So on the call for projects page, it gives all the relevant details for this particular call, the funding amounts for each state, the schedule, the various planning resources that are here. There is a frequently asked questions document. See those. Scoring criteria is linked here. There is a contract template example. Template example that we use in the state of Missouri, but it's very similar to what is used in Kansas as well. And then there is a statement with regard to Mark and local match policy. There are links to the pre-application workshop, which will roll off after today, and then links to register for the two remaining office hour sessions. Additionally, you can access the complete guidebook here, and then you can look at any relevant regional plans that can be tied into this work. There are federal resources and state resources that you can look at with additional best practices that with regard to the program. And in some cases could serve as innovative ways that you are approaching your proposed study. There is a link to the application portal, which when registering, everyone, you'll need, even if you have registered previously, to get to do a PSP study, to utilize the portal. We have a new version of it, so everyone's going to have to re-register. Sorry about that, but we believe that this is a better version than the previous version, so it's worth the trouble. I'm gonna just go in and I will. Let's see. If you need to create a new account, there's a button here at the bottom to be able to do that. Once you go through that, it will email a verification code so that you can get set up, but once you're set up, you're good to go. I have an example. It's minimally filled out, so just ignore the answers. We're looking for more detail than what I did. But with when you log in, it will take you to a home page. It will show you all of the if you have created any submittals, it will show all of them. If you haven't, then you should come click on the Start New Application, and it will take you through all the elements that you need, all the pages that you need to fill out. It will ask you to enter, to create a new application, you need to enter a name. Then once you've created that, you can edit at any point. You can also delete it at any point. Additionally, we do offer a print option. So it will take all of your answers. You can then output it to PDF or print to a printer. And it's a good way to see what the application has captured, what you have created. So you need to select what type of application it is, whether it's a sustainable places plan or a project development category, which study category, then select what your organization type is. We do have a number of options. Then you can pick your organization name. So it would then provide a whole list of, it would list all of the communities that are within the market. Please add a description of the project location, spell out what the project scope is to include. And then on the project information, we'll need to know what the total cost is, what the federal amount is. If you have a minimum funding amount that is less than what your federal request is, and then on the non-federal cash match, the application will check to make sure that you are meeting the 20% minimum. Then you can enter the source of your local match, and then we ask as to whether the project is scalable or not. If it is, if you say yes, then we just start looking for an explanation of how it's scalable. Then on page 2, it gets into sustainable places characteristics. And these are all questions that are going to be driven by your proposed study boundary for your study. And we are looking for you to actually draw it on the map. When you do that, you have the option of picking based on a city or a county. Additionally, there are drawing tools at the bottom where you can draw a line, you can draw a polygon, you can draw a rectangle. We are looking for your study area to be outlined in this. Then after you have drawn your study area, you can delete it at any point. Draw it. If you're doing a polygon, make sure you double click it twice to close it. After you have finished drawing your study area, make sure that you tell it to save. That way it retains that. Then switch from the instructions tab to the layers tab. And then all of these layers are elements that are tied to the questions that are below. So when asking about destinations, it's asking about community per square mile, consumption per square mile, institutional per square mile. You can have one or multiple at a time. So that first question would cover those. Then for the priority industry sectors, we have information about global design, energy, transportation, logistics and warehousing, and then advanced manufacturing. And we'll want to know how this particular study is going to be impacting those. Additionally, there is population by block and jobs by block. Then we do ask questions about land use variety. And with that, we're trying to get a sense of what is happening in your study area that supports a variety of land uses. Additionally, we are looking at what the housing variety by block is. Then additionally, there is the activity centers map, hubs, streetcar stops, the streetcar route, sidewalks, transit routes, bikeways and trails, and then percent of impervious surface. So these are all elements that are then in the following questions and are provided there to help you be able to focus in on your study area. If for some reason, do with the scoring on land use, if you are incorporating, if, for example, you don't have a high variety of land uses in your study area, we do award points if that is going to be something that's going to be, if examining that is going to be in scope of work. So we aren't looking to penalize areas that are looking perhaps to help support mixed use or to support a variety of land uses. Additionally, we do award a point if your future land use plan incorporates mixed use zoning, but perhaps that hasn't been adopted yet. So if that's the case, please make sure that you include that information. That way you can get those points as well. As I mentioned, the layer for housing choice is for the housing choice question, and then the impervious surface question is really looking to get at, is there anything that you are looking to do within the study that would provide solutions that would improve impervious surface and improve stormwater runoff? Then the final question looks at connections. So that gets back to your transit routes, your local bus service, mobility hubs, sidewalks, bike infrastructure, that type of thing. Then on page 3, we're looking for a project description. We want to know if it is consistent with any relevant adopted local comprehensive plans. If so, please describe that. We do have a few questions that are specific to just the project development category, and unless you pick that category, then they'll be grayed out if you're doing a sustainable places plan instead. Then you need to describe how the study and the outcomes will relate to transportation issues. We want to understand what type of public engagement you are looking to undertake. And then we're also looking for how are you going to encourage vibrancy in the study area. There are a number of principles and concepts that were generated by the Sustainable Places program that can be found via the link in the application. On page 4, these are all questions that are tied back to the project's intent. So questions about travel choice, public health, areas with existing infrastructure, resiliency and adaptability, and then what innovation may be incorporated either into the how you'll be generating concepts or the processes that you utilize in public engagement. On page 5, these all get into specifically location questions. And so there is a map about Mark's defined redevelopment area. So you should take a look at it to get a sense of what that means for your proposed study area. Then if it is in that area, then explain. We also ask about activity centers, the future or current transit corridors, mobility hubs, which is part of Smart Moves KC, and then local transit service. And then areas of persistent poverty and historically disadvantaged communities. And we're looking to understand how you're providing connections or opportunities for those who might be classified into that group. And there is a map layer that shows those areas as well. And if you do, please be certain to describe how you are accomplishing that. Then on page 6, actually, these 2 questions are about partnership. And then the final question is about implementation. Then on page 7, you can attach any additional information that could be helpful. You can attach up to 5 files. The maximum size per file is 25 megabytes. We only accept PDFs, JPEGs, Microsoft Word, or Microsoft Excel. If you need to send any other type of file, let me know, because you can forward them to me and then I'll make sure they're incorporated into the application and will be part of the files that are reviewed by scorers. Previously, we would have people that would submit GIS files, but given you're actually drawing your study area in the application, there's really no need to submit a GIS file. Let's see. A project map isn't required for this, given you will have drawn the study area. But if, for example, you have a local transit service and you show those routes, then it would be helpful to have that. Or if you are claiming the future land use element, then uploading a copy of that or that particular page from your long range plan, from your comprehensive plan, sorry, would be beneficial. Letters from the local government aren't required. A number of applicants typically do include that, saying that they will be providing the local match. If there are partners that you are going to be working with, letters of support can be attached here. And then any other items that you would want to include, you have up to 5 slots to do it. When uploading documents, choose your file, then add it. In order to get it actually uploaded, you do need to click save. And then once it's uploaded, it will be shown here. If you want to remove anything, we do give the option to remove any upload that you've done. And as I said, you've got 5 slots with which to work. Then once you've filled everything out, you just click submit application. You'll get notification that everything has been successfully submitted. If for some reason there is a question that's required that isn't filled out, it will give you an error message so that you know which questions you need to get back to make sure that you have submittal. If for some reason you don't like your application or change your mind that you don't want to do it, you should be deleting anything. So with that is, and once you've submitted, this will change from being listed as draft to submitted.
You have a couple questions in the chat. The first one, do local cash matches have to be from local and state governments? Can the match come from qualified agencies such as Port KC, KCATA, et cetera, community nonprofits, or local related stakeholders? Can the match come from multiple sources?
Yes, match can come from multiple sources. We just ask that you can't use other federal funds to do your local cash match. We have had a number of partnerships in which I'm trying to remember. KCMO did a study out at 75th and Warnell, and the Southtown council, I believe, provided part of their local match. So we do, if that's a way in which a nonprofit organization or a business organization or a chamber or somebody wants to be involved, that you're more than able to do that.
Second question, for the questions that ask about layered data, do the responses need to rely only on Mark's data, or can city data supplement and or be used instead?
I'm assuming that would be in relationship to questions on page 2, maybe. You can provide additional information, but we would like you to also address the information that Mark provides in those layers. But if you do have more, say, more specific information maybe that would be captured in those layers, please feel free to include that information, because it just helps to fill out the picture of the study area that you're proposing.
One additional question. Is a community improvement district considered a government entity since it is funded by tax dollars?
I believe that we have allowed CIDs to provide local match because they are taxing districts and considered a government entity.
Can they be an applicant?
Let me check on that and I will send out a message. I'm trying to think. We haven't ever had a CID be an applicant. We have had them partner with the local jurisdiction though. So.
I have a question.
Oh, sure.
Just trying to align the different fiscal years. I noticed that in the procurement process, the match is given. Do we have an estimated month of when that might be?
So it depends on when we end up issuing the RFP. I would anticipate that we will have somewhere between 15 to 17 studies just based on the amount of funding that we have and what it has looked like in the past. We do not release all the RFPs at one time. It would just overwhelm the consulting community. So at the beginning of October, how it has typically worked is we'll release 3 RFPs at the beginning of each month. I coordinate with the sponsors to figure out, okay, based on your schedules, what time is going to work best for you. So if October is going to be too soon, we can set you up for January. So in many cases, it has been the fiscal year and working out the match and that type of thing. If for some reason you would rather, just because of timing with other work that you have going on, would like to release the RFP say in January, but because of your fiscal year, you want to pay your match in 26, we can end this time. So we can work with you. And if need be, we can do it in installments as well. So we're trying to make sure you all can do studies that are really going to benefit your communities, and I want that to be a hurdle that makes it impossible.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah.
Is there a way to kind of determine how much we would need to request?
Actually, that's the perfect question for where I'm at now. And I'll flip over to it in a second, but we do have a thing called the Planning Sustainable Places Hub. And on that, there's a Project Explorer, a data atlas, and then the Sustainable Land Use Resource. So you can then, in the atlas, it gives all these various boundaries and layers that you can look at. But in the hub, we do switch back to our website. So on the hub, you can go in to the Project Explorer and select any study. Then you can get a sense of, it's going to tell you like a brief statement of what that particular study was, what their budget was. For the 2025, some have the plans here. if there's a particular plan you want to take a look at that isn't posted, let me know. And I can forward the document to you. Because of the new accessibility requirements, we're trying to make sure all the 25 studies meet those requirements. We've archived everything from 2023 back. And so those are online. So for example, take a look at the stone. New plan kind of. Just everything. Okay, so, well, that's not helpful. Okay. So for example, on this one, you can see it's in Gardner. You can actually go in and view the final deliverable, but it gives you a sense of the budget that was utilized in order to arrive at that plan. And so all 118 studies, you can go in and you can look at any of them. I don't know that we would hit the point where you can actually, you can. So you can actually then pick what type. So you can do project development or sustainable places plan. You can also see what year it was by city, and then projects by county. So, and I'd recommend taking a look at that. It's pretty helpful to see like how big the study area was and then what the budget was like.
I have another question.
Sure.
You can't use other federal funds for local match, but our CDBG funds, okay?
We have accepted CDBG. It's like. Any other questions?
What's in the chat at this point?
Okay. So I would recommend taking a look at the Project Explorer, particularly if there are communities that you feel are your peers, you can see what they have done previously as well. We're almost done with the slides. So if you have more questions or if they come to you before June 6th or by June 16th, please feel free to join the office, either of the office hour opportunities. The QR code here will take you to the call webpage. All of the office hour sessions are going to be held virtually on Teams. And then, as I mentioned, the registration links can be found both on the call page and then they're also in the guidebook. The deadline is Monday, June 22nd at 4 p.m. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. Otherwise, thanks for joining us this afternoon. Okay.
Sorry, just one last question from me. Could you explain scalable earlier in the presentation?
Sure. So with Scalable, what we're trying to get at, oh, and also FYI, within the guidebook on all the questions, the vast majority of them have an explanation to help you understand what it is at. But with regard to Scalable, that question is just after if you could take less money. If you could take less money, then we want to understand how that's going to impact the study.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
But good question. Any other questions? Anything else? Yep. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of your day and enjoy the upcoming holiday next Monday. And look forward to seeing your submissions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.